Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. And it's a pretty slow week, not a lot to talk about today. Of course, that's not true, because Wizards, in true Wizards fashion, when they do something, they have to do like 3 or 4 things at the same time. So there's a lot of big news articles this week that have impacted card prices. First off, last weekend we had the Mythic Championship number 5, and you know those big tournaments are always going to impact prices. Then on Monday, they went ahead and banned Field of the Dead in Standard and Arkham's Astrolabe in Pauper. So again, that's going to impact prices. And then also on Monday, we found out about a brand new non-rotating format that they are supporting very heavily called Pioneer. Now, if you need to catch up on what Pioneer is and what some of the card prices have been doing earlier in the week, I did a couple videos. I'll link those at the end of this one so you can catch up. But just know, we're going to talk a lot about Pioneer cards today. Without any further ado, though, let's get into it. We're going to begin, as we always do, with Standard, and this time we're going to look at the top 10 Standard legal cards that have lost value this week. There's just so much going on right now. We're going to be looking at larger lists for the most part today. I do have one honorable mention before we get to the top 10. It's Leyline of Anticipation. This is the one from Core Set 2020. It goes down 49 cents to $5.49. This obviously is a reprint of a very sought-after Commander card, great Commander staple. And because of the Core Set 2020 printing it rare, you can get it at a pretty decent price now. Okay, number 10 is Realm Cloaked Giant, down 50 cents to $3.95. Now, this is still seeing standard play. This is a great card for like Jeskai Fire Super Friends, but it was a big part of the Field of the Dead decks as well, many of them. Because of that, it does dip this week. Number 9 is the first Brawl Commander on the list today. This is Sir Gwyn, Hero of Ashvale, going down 52 cents to $6.99. So this copy of the card, as well as all the copies of these Brawl Commanders that we will look at on these videos typically, are going to be the non-foil copy. So this is the one you would find in the collector boosters. The good news is, though, they are working, and next month, hopefully, there'll be more copies of the actual Brawl decks out there for people to get their hands on. That should soften up prices across the board. This is a very sought-after commander right now because a lot of people not only want to play Brawl with this, but they want to build Knight Commander decks. Number 8 is Chandra Awakened Inferno, down 55 cents to $15.40. This card is fading a little bit when it comes to Standard because last season at the beginning, it was pretty prominent. We saw it in Elementals decks. There were even Chandra builds floating around. But as time went on, those decks started to disappear. This season, Elemental decks aren't really doing anything. This can show up some of the time in Jeskai Fire Super Friends decks. Also, it does show up in some other Fringe decks out there. We'll have to kind of see, though, with the meta changing. Maybe this will play a larger role. But at least for right now, it is a little bit soft. You also want to pay attention, too, to the fact that it is seeing a little modern play right now, too. You don't want to discount that. Number 7 is Leyline of Sanctity, down 60 cents to $6.82. This is the one from Magic 2011. This has been pretty soft ever since the reprinting at Rare from Core Set 2020, which of course makes this card standard legal. It's not seeing a ton of standard play right now, though, maybe down the road. It is still a good card for modern as well as legacy sideboards. Can protect you against things like burn, mill, or discard. Number 6 is Woodland Mystic. It goes down 74 cents to $3.80. The only place you can find this card is in the Core Set 2020 Green Welcome deck. That's one of 5 welcome decks that game stores give out to new players for free to get them involved in Magic. Because that's the only place where you can get a copy of this card, there's only one in that deck, the card price has gotten a little bit high, especially if you're trying to shop online. Not a lot of people break up those decks to sell singles, so you are at the mercy of whoever decides to post the card online, and sometimes the prices have been a little bit high. At least it comes down a tad bit this week, but it's still a little bit expensive for what it is. Number 5 is Kenrith the Return King, down 84 cents to $12.74. Yet again, this is not the buy box promo copy. This is the one you might find in a collector booster. It's a non-foil. Now, this was a big part of those Bant Lands decks. Because of the Field of the Dead banning, this does go down a little bit this week, but it still sees standard play. Jeskai Fire Super Friends is another really good deck that's going to continue to run this. This is also a great card for commander purposes as well. Number 4, here's a card from a Brawl deck. It's Knight's Charge. You can also find this in collector boosters, though. It goes down 89 cents to $5.84. Like I said before, Knights have been very popular in Brawl and Commander, and now that there's more copies getting out there, this is softening up a little bit. Number 3, Tulane Teller of Tales, yet another one of the Brawl Commanders. Again, this is the non-foil copy you'll find in collector boosters. It goes down $1.08 to $10.59. A lot of folks have been building around this card, not just for Brawl, but also Commander again. And again, with the extra product incoming now, prices are starting to relax a little bit. Number 2 is Omnith, Locus of the Royal. This goes down $1.20 to $7.35. So here's a card that's just seeing less play this season compared to last season. With those elemental decks not doing as much in standard right now, this card's kind of disappeared. There is a modern elemental deck that does run one copy of this typically, but usually it's just one in the main, so it's really not enough to keep the price up there very high. Commander and Brawl players, though, might be interested in this for sure. Number 1 is Leyline of the Void. This is the original one from Guild Pact. It goes down $1.30 to $24.99. This card has been extremely soft recently. Sure, it did get reprinted in Core Set 2020 as a rare. That's part of the reason. But also because of the banning of Faithless Looting and Hogak in Modern recently, the card just isn't as critical as it once was. Still a great sideboard card, though, not only for Modern, but also Legacy and Vintage, and it continues to see play, but the value does continue to decrease, at least a little bit. Okay, on to the top 10 standard legal cards that have gained value this week, and again, I do have one honorable mention, and that is Overgrown Tomb. Guilds of Ravnica up $1.64 to $9.11, Return to Ravnica up $1.86 to $9.49. With the Bant Lands decks disappearing now, people are looking at other options. One really solid option is Jund Adventures, and this is part of that mana base in Standard. This also sees a ton of play in Modern. Of course, it's in Jund and so many other decks there. However, the other thing to remember here is that this is going to be a part of the Pioneer mana base as well. A lot of people are trying to pull together cards for a lot of different decks right now, so Shocklands are starting to heat up. They already had kind of a high price point due to the fact that they were Standard legal, so I don't see them jumping as much as some of the cards that people are picking up for mana bases right now for Pioneer, but they are starting to move a little bit. Number 10, Assassin's Trophy. This goes up $1.90 to $22.77. This hasn't seen a ton of standard play recently. I mean, it does show up in places here or there, but in Modern, this card is very popular. You're going to find it in Jund, or Zethopter Sword, Jund Death Shadow, Rainbow Nib Mizzet, and more there. Sees a little legacy play too, but again, the real appeal to a card like this currently is Pioneer. I've already seen this in Golgari Delirium builds, and I'm sure it's going to show up in a whole lot of other decks too. Number 9 is Arclight Phoenix up $2.06 to $11.98. Okay, this is rising from the ashes. This card has been very soft recently, going down in value. One of the reasons that we talked about in the past is the fact that the Arcane Tempo Challenger deck has a copy of this in there. So there are more copies out there compared to other Guilds of Ravnica Mythic Rares. Aside from that, it's been seeing less play recently, not only in Standard, but also in Modern. The banning of Faithless Looting really hurt it there. Now, things have changed a little bit recently, especially with people looking for new options to play in Standard with Field of the Dead gone. There is this blue Arclight Dredge style deck that is gaining a little popularity. We'll have to kind of wait and see if it can become one of the top tier decks, but right now a lot of people are trying it out. Although the big reason for the price increase again is Pioneer. Phoenix decks and Pioneer do look promising at this point. Number 8 is Breeding Pool. Dissension goes up $1.90 to $25.99. Gatecrash goes up $2.06 to $18.70. For a while now, Bant and Simic colors have been very powerful in Standard, and recently, of course, we did lose Field of the Dead, which does nullify those Bant Lands decks. While right behind them are going to be the Bant and Simic Food Ramp decks, which are doing very well right now in the format, not to mention some other builds out there too. On top of that, this is great in a lot of big Modern decks like Amulet Titan, plus much more. And again, because of Pioneer, you also have that new interest in some of these Shocklands. Number 7, Vivian Arkbow Ranger. This goes up $2.25 to $6.79. This card has been looking good in Standard for a few weeks now, but it really was Mythic Championship number 5, which I think brought a lot of attention to it. Looks great in Jund Adventures, the Simic Food Ramp deck, and I'm sure those strategies will see more play now that Field of the Dead is banned. Number 6 is Hydroid Crisis, up $2.61 to $32.88. Here's another card that you might say to yourself, well, this is in decks with Field of the Dead, but it's also in a lot of other really good Standard builds. Again, another card you're going to find in these Food Ramp builds, also in Simic Flash and more. Sees a little Modern play too, and has strong potential for Pioneer. Number 5 is Once Upon a Time, up $3.49 to $17.55. This card is out of control. It is a rare from the new set. Tons of packs are being opened, but it's still going up in value quite a bit. That's because it looked amazing during Mythic Championship number 5 this week. And this is a real deal. I mean, it's all over Standard right now. You're going to find this in Simic and Bant Ramp builds, Jund Adventures, Gorilla Aggro, Teamer Super Friends, and more. It's just a staple now. And the same is kind of true in Modern. You're going to find this in Amulet Titan and Tron, Jund Death Shadow, Infect, Devoted Devastation, and more there. And of course, yes, this is showing up in a lot of Pioneer brews already, like Abzan Midrange, Copycat Combo, Hardened Scales. This is a card to watch for the future for sure. Yet again, another card that could not be brought down by that Field of the Dead banning. Number 4, Vraska, Golgari Queen, going up 422 to 1305. This is seeing a little standard play, like in Jund Aristocrats and some other lightly played decks right now, but of course, again, the format is changing, so you want to keep an eye on that. Modern, though, it is seeing play sometimes in the sideboard, sometimes in the main of a lot of decks, sometimes Devoted Company, The Rock, Golgari Yawgmoth Chord, which is a newer deck that's pretty interesting, sees a little legacy play too. But I think part of the reason for this big increase is not only Pioneer, of course, because it does have potential there, but also singleton formats, especially Brawl and Oathbreaker. A lot of people are trying to build around this as their commander in those formats right now. Number 3, Questing Beast. This is another card that looked amazing at Mythic Championship number 5. It goes up $467 this week to $35. This one is a Mythic, so sure, there's less copies out there at this point, but a lot of packs are still being opened. This is already beginning to settle down a little bit, but for right now in Standard, you're going to find this in the Ramp Food builds, the Adventure builds, Gruul Aggro, Temur Super Friends. Remember, Gruul Aggro was a deck that actually won the whole tournament too, so there's a lot of people looking at that deck list right now. And of course, this does show up in other places in the format too. In Modern, this is showing up in Naya Midrange, Gruul Control, sees a little Legacy and Vintage play even. And again, there's a lot of Pioneer folks looking at this one too. Number 2 is Fabled Passage. Okay, this goes up $598 to $18.95, another rare from Throne of Eldraine, so that's really saying something about this card. And again, a card that wasn't completely reliant on Bant lands or anything like that. This feels just like a standard staple at this point. Jund Adventures, the Food Ramp decks, Jeskai Fire Super Friends, Gruul Aggro, Simic Flash, Rakdos Sacrifice. It's everywhere. And when you look at the new Pioneer brews, it feels like it's going to be a staple there too. It's showing up in a ton of places. Number 1, Oko Thief of Crowns, goes up $966 to $57.31. During the tournament, shortly after the tournament, at one point, this card was pushing like $80 or something. It was insane. So it started to come back down, which is good. But it is kind of stuck right now around this high 50 mark. I don't think it's going to stay there. Obviously, supply needs to catch up a little bit with the demand. But the problem is there's a ton of demand on this card right now. Let's talk Standard first. The Food builds, of course, want this card. Temur Super Friends as well, and more there. In Modern, though, this is in some pretty big decks, even if sometimes it's out of the sideboard. Many of the Urza Ascendancy, Urza Outcome, and Urza Thopter Sword decks are now starting to run this. You're also going to find this in Infect, Rainbow Nib Mizzet, and more. It's also seeing Legacy and Vintage play, and of course it's going to see Pioneer play. Dredgeless Dredge builds are starting to run this already. Bant Spirits, Copycat Combo, Aetherworks Marvel Energy. And I haven't even mentioned like Brawl or Commander or anything like that. There's a lot of different players interested in this card. Okay, on to our first ever Pioneer section, beginning with the top 5 Pioneer legal cards that have lost value this week. Now, I'll be honest, pretty difficult to find Pioneer legal cards losing value. Everybody's kind of waiting and seeing. They don't want to sell or trade away a bunch of cards that are about to go up in value, right? So most of the cards we're going to look at are decent Commander cards that are maybe just going down a little bit this week. Here's a good example of that. This one is an honorable mention, though. It's Karametra, God of Harvest, going down 34 cents to $7.19 this week. Number 5 is Helm of the Host. Great Commander card. You can pull off some really cool combos with this. It goes down 35 cents to $6.09. Number 4, another very good one. The Chain Veil. Great for Commander, great for Oathbreaker. It goes down 39 cents to $17.76. Number 3, there's even a Planeswalker here. Ajani, Mentor of Heroes, goes down 41 cents to $9.99. Number 2, Sliver Hivelord, going down 47 cents to $28.45. Every once in a while, I'll see a modern Sliver deck. Usually this is in it, sometimes out of the sideboard. But a lot of Commander players were interested in Slivers, especially when Modern Horizons dropped, bringing us the first Sliver and some other new ones. And now that some time has passed, a lot of these big key Slivers are retracting a little bit, like this one. And number 1 is Crucible of Worlds. This is the one from 10th edition, going down 83 cents to $25. I haven't seen a lot of people brewing with this card yet for Pioneer, but obviously it is very early. And it is a decent Modern card. You're going to find this in Tron builds many times out of the sideboard, usually like just a one of, but it is there. Also sees Vintage play. It has seen less play recently though, but it's always going to be a great casual card if nothing else. What better way to welcome Pioneer to the Market Watch than to do a top 30 Pioneer legal cards that have gained value this week? Okay, couple things I want to mention. First off, obviously, a lot of the cards we're going to talk about are good in other formats too. Most of them see Modern play, many of them see Commander play. But because there's so many cards for the purposes of this section, we're just going to focus on Pioneer. That's the main reason all these are going up this week anyway. There may be a light exception here or there if I have to mention something else, but for the most part, we're just talking about Pioneer. Secondly, these are only your top 30 cards. A lot of other cards are going up in price, so just stay really close to the market. There's a lot of change happening quickly. Number 30 is Tireless Tracker. This goes up $3.39 to $12.08. Now, this is a great modern card, pretty good legacy card too. Obviously, this will be very strong in Pioneer, and it's already showing up in Abzan mid-range builds, which look like they could be pretty decent. Also, some variations of Golgari Delirium will run this card too. This is one to keep an eye on. Number 29, classic control card here. Going to be a part of control decks in Pioneer, no doubt. It's Search for Iskanta. This is going up $3.56 to $11.43. Number 28 is Sihili Rai, going up $3.78 to $13.47. So obviously, a lot of the cards you're going to see on the list are going to be familiar cards. And yes, Copycat Combo definitely could be one of the stronger decks out of the gate in Pioneer. Number 27, Chandra Torch of Defiance. This goes up $3.83 to $16.57. This has seen like light Modern and Legacy play recently, nothing crazy. But now that Pioneer is here, there's new hope for this card, and it's already showing up in some Jeskai Super Friends builds. Number 26, Eidolon of the Great Revel. Masters 25 goes up $3.96 to $9.80. Journey into Nyx goes up $4.20 to $9.99. Fantastic option for burn decks. Of course, we've seen this work before in Legacy, all over the place in Modern, and now it's going to happen again in Pioneer. Number 25, Gideon, Ally of Zendikar, goes up $4.40 to $12. Another card that has proved itself in Modern and Legacy in the past, already showing up in some early Pioneer brews. There's some Knights builds interested in this, Orzhov Super Friends also interested in Esper Control. Not to mention the fact that a lot of Commander players are also trying to build Knights decks, so you might see a little cross-interest happening here. Number 24, the Scarab God, another blast from the past. It goes up $4.43 to $18.45. And I have seen people looking at some zombie brews with this, also an interesting Sultai Delve brew. So I do think this will find a home somewhere in the Pioneer format. It's just got too much power not to. Also a great Commander card still. Nykthos, Shrine of Nyx is number 23. It goes up $4.44 to $15.95. Huge Commander card. You see this all the time, especially in like monocolor Commander builds. Has seen play in Modern. Pioneer, definitely going to see play. I've already seen Mono Green Devotion and Mono Black Devotion builds with this. Number 22, Kolagon's command goes up $4.46 to $26.42. These commands are awesome because of their versatility. I saw a Tarka's command going up. It just missed the list actually, but this one does make it. And yes, this sees a lot of Modern play right now. Sees some Legacy play too, but in Pioneer, I have no doubt this is going to show up in a number of builds, including Grixis Control. That's one of the places I've seen it early on. Number 21 is Inspiring Vantage, one of the Kaladesh dual lands. It goes up $4.50 to $7.80. And these are just getting hot right now. This is not the only one that has made our list today. Simply, people are thinking about building their mana bases for all these new decks, and they're going to need these cards. Remember, no fetch lands in this environment, so you do have your shock lands, which will be fantastic, but these have been valued lower because they weren't seeing as much play. Now, all of a sudden, you have a lot of people scrambling for them, and what you're seeing here is a pretty big price jump for a number of them. Number 20, Dig Through Time. Yup, this is a card that was banned in Modern. Banned in Legacy, restricted in Vintage, but you can play it in Pioneer. Khans of Tarkir goes up $4.56 to $5.99. Ultimate Masters going up $4.56 to $6. Is this going to be great without fetch lands in the format? I feel like it probably won't be broken, but it could be very, very good still. I guess time will tell ultimately. But right now the card is pretty hot and is showing up in some early brews, things like Emery Ascendancy, as well as some control builds and some Delve builds. Number 19, Old Home Week continues on the Market Watch with Aetherworks Marvel going up $5.05 to $7.99. Another potentially very strong build early on in the format is the Aetherworks Marvel Energy build. Because of that, this card has been pretty hot. Number 18, arguably the best vehicle ever made, Smuggler's Copter goes up $5.13 to $7. And being colorless, this can fit into a number of different builds, and I'm sure it will. I've already seen it in Abzan Midrange, Spirits builds, Golgari Delirium, Dredgeless Dredge, and Affinity. Number 17 is Voice of Resurgence. Modern Masters 2017 up $3.46 to $11.20. Dragon's Maze up $5.79 to $13.23. This is a good card in some Modern Company builds. This has been seeing more Commander play recently too because of Geared Conclave Exile from the Primal Genesis Commander 2019 deck. This is a good upgrade for that deck generally, or if you just want to completely build around that Commander. But again, obviously this is moving because of Pioneer. Already I'm seeing this in company builds, Bant midrange and Abzan midrange. Number 16, Walking Ballista goes up $5.87 to $22. I hope you kept your copies of this card. I remember when it rotated out, I said keep a play set, because this is going to see play, and it has seen play in Modern, Legacy, even Vintage. Recently, this has even seen more Commander play because of Alila Artful Provocateur, Chilean Teller of Tales, and Emery Lurker of the Loch. But obviously, again, this is moving because of Pioneer. I've already seen this in Hardened Scales builds and more. Number 15 is another one of these Kaladesh lands. This is Botanical Sanctum. It goes up 588 to 907. Number 14, Abrupt Decay. Guilds of Ravnica Golgari Guild Kit goes up 402 to 701. Return to Ravnica goes up 495 to 794. Modern Masters 2017 goes up 591 to 895. Another card that has seen Modern, Legacy, and Vintage play. This has been a big Modern card for a while now, but in Pioneer it's already showing up in Hardened Scales and Golgari Delirium. Number 13 is Mox Amber, up $627 to $30. So this is moving because of Pioneer mostly, I would say. Emery Ascendancy looks like it could be a deck there for sure. But I do think this is still moving because of Modern as well in this case. Urza Ascendancy and Urza Outcome decks have been very popular recently. Also, some of the Urza Thopterosaur decks have been running this from time to time as well. Number 12 is another one of those Kaladesh Jewel lands, Blooming Marsh. It goes up $767 to $1098. Not a coincidence that the one that gives you Golgari Colors is moving the most, I don't think, out of all of them. Just simply because I do think Golgari Delirium could be a very strong deck at the beginning. Number 11 is Collected Company, up $833 to $20. We know what this card can do in Modern, and I do think it's going to be great in Pioneer too. Already seeing it show up in Bant Spirits builds. Number 10 is Emrakul, The Promised End. It goes up $846 to $29.99. Couple things to mention about this card, one of which this is from Eldritch Moon. I do think Eldritch Moon might be kind of like the Lorwyn block when it comes to Pioneer, just because that particular set was not opened as much. It was a smaller set, so it automatically got drafted less, and typically those smaller sets didn't sell as well. On top of that, it was sandwiched in between a ton of sets, and it was pushed right up against Eternal Masters. So because of that, I think some of the cards from that set have the potential to spike more if they do continue to see play in the format. Obviously, this is one of those cards. Now, I think this will find a home probably in a few different decks because it's in some real good ones. Golgari Delirium, Aetherworks Marvel Energy, Dreadless Dredge, Abzan Midrange, some pretty powerful decks. Number 9 is Deathrite Shaman. Yep, this is another card that is banned in Modern, banned in Legacy, but yes, you can play it in Pioneer. Return to Ravnica goes up $657 to $949. Eternal Masters goes up $671 to $998. Guilds of Ravnica, Golgari Guild Kit goes up $850 to $11.38. Like Dig Through Time, I think this is going to be a very, 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 very good card, but maybe not broken without fetch lands in the environment. But again, we'll have to kind of see what happens. This is already showing up in Golgari Delirium builds, among others. Number 8, Torrential Gearhulk goes up $857 to $12. This card spiked quite a bit percentage-wise this week. And yes, I do think it will show up in control builds and Copycat Combo, perhaps in the new environment. Number 7 is another card you might find in Copycat Combo or control builds in Pioneer. This also happens to be a Eldritch Moon card. Spell Queller goes up $973 to $17. Number 6 is Grim Flayer, another Eldritch Moon card. This one goes up $1370 to $1885. Wow, very powerful card in Standard during its time. And yes, I do think this will see play in a lot of decks, including Golgari Delirium and Abzan Midrange. Number 5 is Thoughtseize. Lorwyn goes up $347 to $3279. Iconic Masters up $1101 to $2819. Theros up $1480 to $2975. Okay, so I wanted to point out that Theros one has always been pretty undervalued compared to the others. There is different art, but I do think that's subjective. I think the main reason for that was simply because there was a lot of Theros printed. Now that a new group of people are interested in this card, it quickly went up, as you can see here. Now, this is a card that is all over Modern, you know that. Sees Legacy play too. I think it's going to see a ton of play in Pioneer. I'm already seeing it show up in so many builds, and a lot of good ones like Hardened Scales, Dreadless Dredge, Abzan Midrange, Mardu Knights, Grixis Control, Rally Zombies, Mono Black Devotion, Golgari Delirium. The list goes on and on. Keep a close eye on this one. It's going to keep going up. Number 4. In the video I made on Tuesday, I mentioned that I felt that Wizards made this whole Pioneer format just so I could keep talking about Teferi, Hero of Dominaria on the Market Watch. If that's the case, Wizards, mission accomplished. This goes up $1538 to $3611 this week. And we know what Teferi can do. Still a good Modern card and control builds, and shows up in other places there too. And yes, this will be in Pioneer control builds, no doubt. This one takes us back to Eldritch Moon. Liliana, the Last Hope, goes up $1775 to $50. Okay, so this is a card that has proven itself again in Modern and Legacy. And in Pioneer, I do think it's going to be quite good, already showing up in Abzan midrange and other builds there. Number 2, Mana Confluence goes up 1866 to 3275. I think this is going to be a pretty big mana-based card for those decks that are really pushing colors, 4 or 5 color decks. I'm already seeing this show up in like Dredgeless Dredge and Copycat Combo. Number 1, one of the big cards, maybe the biggest card of Frontier back in the day, Jace, Vryn's Prodigy, going up 2407 this week to 4475. Jace is a very solid, very powerful card, doing well in Modern currently, and I'm already seeing it show up in Grixis control builds that look pretty interesting in Pioneer. I'm sure it's going to show up in other places as well. Okay, on to Modern, and now we're going to talk about cards that are Modern legal that aren't legal in both Standard or Pioneer. So here's our top 5 Modern legal cards that have lost value this week. Number 5 is Horizon Canopy, the original one from Future Sight, going down $2.98 to $60.94. This is a little bit harder to find in good condition, being from Future Sight. Also has the unique art, the unique border, always carries a higher price tag, but because of that, it is a little softer right now. Not too long ago, Modern Horizons gave us some different options for this type of card. So if I don't want necessarily just these colors, there's other places I can go to be able to draw a card off my lands. And because of that, sure, Horizon Canopy has gotten a little softer. Still seeing play in a lot of big decks though, like Humans, Banned Spirits, Company decks, and more. Number 4, Jace the Mind Sculptor. This is the one for Masters 25. It goes down $371 to $128.99. These Jaces have been trying to find their price points for a few weeks now. And not too long ago, Stoneforge Mystic was unbanned in Modern, and a lot of folks thought, well, those two cards play together well in Legacy, they should play together well in Modern, and they do. But because of the aggressive spiking during that time, the card is now retracting a little bit as everything starts to normalize. Number 3 is Tarmogoyf from Modern Masters. It goes down $3.98 to $56. These Goyfs have also been trying to find their price point as the meta has been evolving, but this is still seeing a ton of play. You're going to find this in Jund decks, The Rock, Jund Death Shadow as well, and many others in the format. Also continues to see Legacy play. Number 2 is Scalding Tarn. This is the one from Zendikar. It goes down $5.08 to $88.57. This got a little bit softer with the banning of Faithless Looting in the format. It did lead to this card seeing a little less play, but it still sees a ton of play in Modern, Legacy, and Vintage. It's not going to lose all that much more value, I don't think, before it stabilizes. Number 1 is Stoneforge Mystic, going down $6.15 to $63.87. So obviously this got super hot when it became unbanned in Modern, and it just climbed and climbed and climbed. Now you are seeing that normalization. Everything is getting more steady. Is the card good in Modern? Yeah, it's actually pretty good. Is it dominating the format? No, it's not dominating the format, but you do see this in Stoneblade decks that are performing well, and also Stoneforge packages in a variety of different builds. Okay, on to the top 5 Modern legal cards that have gained value this week, and you're going to see a number of Commander cards on here again. There are some Modern cards, though, as well, but there was not a big Modern tournament last week, and a lot of people are focused on Pioneers, so for the most part, a lot of the big Modern staples and such are pretty calm. Here's one honorable mention, though, I definitely wanted to show you. Amulet of Vigor goes up $185 to $23.77. The Amulet Titan deck is looking like maybe one of the better decks right now in this new meta. Number 5 is Rings of Brighthearth. It goes up $224 to $49.99. So first off, this is a Commander card, obviously. It doesn't see a whole lot of play in Modern, but it's a great combo enabler in Commander for sure. And even if you play fair with this, it can be quite good. Aside from that, this is also a Lorwyn card, as you know, if you watch the market watches. The demand for Magic was down during that time period, print runs were shorter, so sometimes cards from that time do tend to spike a little more than other cards. Number 4, Sword of Light and Shadow for Modern Masters. It goes up $255 to $59.04 this week. This is stabilizing after it took a little bit of a dip last week. And I mentioned last week, I'm not seeing this as much in Modern as I was seeing it a few weeks back. It feels like when people are playing Stoneforge Mystic now, they're playing more Sword of Feast and Famine and Batterskull, sometimes Sword of Fire and Ice. This one will appear occasionally, but just not that often anymore. Regardless, though, it does see some play, also sees a little Legacy play from time to time, and it's a great Commander card, so it is stabilizing up. Number 3 is Knight Exemplar. This is the one from the dual decks Knights vs. Dragons. It goes up $271 to $18.23. And as we've been saying, a lot of folks have been building Commander Knight decks recently, and this is a great inclusion. Hakken Strom Gold Scourge is number 2, going up $284 to $19.92. Another great card for those Commander Knights builds. Number 1 is Savor the Moment, going up $313 to $20.90. Now, this is another card from that time period, being from Shadowmoor, which is part of the reason it spiked so aggressively recently. But the catalyst for this was LSV going 5-0 on Magic the Gathering Online with a pretty cool Is It Taking Turns deck that ran this as well as Mystic Sanctuary. And unfortunately, in these last 2 weeks, nobody's really been able to reproduce the success with this deck. We'll have to see if that changes, but if not, this card could soften up very quickly. Okay, on to our Vintage Spotlight. This is where we talk about cards that are important to collectors, and also cards that see play in Vintage, Legacy, and 93-94. We'll begin with Gaia's Cradle from Urza Saga. It goes up 217 to 350.66. Not a huge increase, but this card has been creeping up, so I just wanted to point it out to you. It is on the reserve list, but it did get reprinted as a Judge promo before they closed that loophole in the reserve list. Sees play in Legacy and Elves builds and some other decks there. Great commander card, though, if you have one in your collection. Next, we have Mox Diamond. It goes up 356 to 264.99. Another card on the reserve list that did get a reprinting in foil. This time it was in From the Vault Relics. And this sees plenty of Legacy play, actually. Golgari Depths, lands, 4-color loam, and more. Sees a little Vintage play. And another good commander card in certain builds. Mana Crypt from Eternal Masters goes up 468 to 204.99. Great Vintage card, great commander card. Sedge Troll from Unlimited. This is on the reserve list, but did get printed one more time and revised. It goes up 1674 to 96.22. Unlimited cards continue to be hot. There's going to be more on the list before we're done here. Here's another one now. Fork from Unlimited. This is also on the reserve list. Also got reprinted and revised, though. It goes up 1674 to 117.11. And here's Bayou from Unlimited. Third verse, same as the first. This is also a card that did get another printing and revised. But like the last few, it is on the reserve list. It goes up 79.52 to $799. Wheel of Fortune from Unlimited. And fourth verse, same as the first. This also is on the reserve list, but got reprinted and revised. This one, though, also did get a Judge promo printing in foil, too. This goes up 84.29 to $299.99. Pyramids go up 122.02 this week to 262.49. This card was recently bought out, and then everything kind of stabilized. It started to go down again, but now maybe this is a follow-up buyout. Or else maybe some people felt like they missed out when the initial buyout happened, and when the card price came down a little, they picked it up. So this is drying up again in the marketplace this week. Black Lotus from Unlimited goes up $1,820.01 to $17,999.99. Just wanted to point this one out. Clearly, this is on the reserve list. There is a seller trying to sell a near mint copy of this card at a very, very, very high price, and because there's not a lot of sales for Black Lotus at any given time, that type of listing is throwing off the value of the card if you look at some of the sites that follow the Crystal Commerce system. They may be fishing for an offer, so I don't want anyone to be confused by that price. If you're really trying to find like a light played Black Lotus from Unlimited, you probably are going to have to spend between $8,000 and $10,000 for the card, not $18,000. Okay, on to our Commander Spotlight. Alurin. This one is on the reserve list too. It goes up $1.14 to $33.99. This does see Legacy play in Alurin decks, but recently it gained a little more popularity because it does play well in Chulane Teller of Tales builds in Commander. Mana Vault. This is the one from Revised. It goes up $1.20 to $29.99. Fantastic classic Commander card. Also good in Vintage. Necropotence. This card got really hot recently because a lot of people were building around Carrick, Son of Yawgmoth. Perfect card in that deck. Ice Age this week goes up $1.13 to $26.53. Iconic Masters up $1.36 to $19.67. Island Sanctuary from 5th edition goes up $1.38 to $3.38. This is a fine commander card, but really this particular version of the card has been drying up in the marketplace recently, which is why you see these odd spikes. Avacyn Angel of Hope. This is the original one from Avacyn Restored. It goes up $1.48 to $31.49. And this is another just really good commander card to have a copy of. Doubling Season. Speaking of great commander cards, here you go. This goes up $1.48 to $53.49. This is the one from Modern Masters. And recently, with Primal Genesis coming out, I was a little surprised this card didn't start to go up in value a little bit sooner. Great upgrade for that Commander 2019 deck, but just generally a great commander card to have. Grim Monolith. This is on the reserve list. Goes up $1.59 to $162.70. This card keeps climbing. This sees Legacy play in Mystic Forge combo and 12 post. Great commander card as well. Balin Wandering Knight goes up $1.91 to $9.03. Obviously another card that is being swept up in all the Knight excitement. Supreme Verdict. Okay. Iconic Masters goes up $1.39 to $7.46. Return to Ravnica goes up $2.25 to $7.99. Obviously this one is moving more because of Pioneer than anything. This is going to be great in Pioneer control builds. But it's such a big commander card. I just wanted to mention it since it didn't make it onto our top 30. Chainer Dementia Master goes up 246 to 999. This card's been pretty hot because it does fit into Carrick Son of Yawgmoth builds, as well as Chainer Nightmare Adept builds. Piracy from Portal Second Age goes up 382 to 1895. Kind of a weird card that spikes every once in a while because they are drying up in the marketplace. But this week, the professor on Tolarian Community College mentioned it with a pretty devious combo, actually, in a video, and it did draw some more attention to this card. The combo involves Storm Cauldron and Warp Devotion. Now, I have seen people just play this card fair because it is a way to try to stop an opponent from maybe countering something you're going to do next, because it kind of forces a situation where they just have to tap all their lands. I've also seen people just throw this card into pirate builds for theming purposes. Angus Mackenzie, this is on the reserve list, goes up 491 to 194.40. Great pillow fort card if you happen to have a copy. Okay, on to our Pauper Spotlight. We're going to begin with Lava Spike. Champions of Kamigawa goes up 11 cents to 384. Ultimate Masters goes up 16 cents to 374. This is a great Pauper burn card, also sees play in Modern and Legacy burn too. Grey Merchant of Asphodel. This goes up 28 cents to 425. Okay, so this does see play in Mono Black control builds in Pauper, but this is really moving most likely because of Pioneer also showing up in Mono Black Devotion builds there. And this was a really sweet standard card back in the day. And next we have Merchant Scroll. 8th edition goes up 14 cents to 435. Homelands goes up 28 cents to 425. This is in the Inside Out combo deck. Sees play in Modern, in Twiddle Storm, and some other decks there. And it does see some Vintage play too. On to our Premium Spotlight. Like I say every week, typically I don't like to talk too much about foils or rare promos, because when you look at online prices, they can be very misleading. There's not a lot of data out there, so sometimes prices get inflated, sometimes they purposely get inflated. But I like to pick at least one card every week that feels like it is moving with the market. And this week, how could I not pick Jace Vryn's Prodigy? 4 copies here. San Diego Comic-Con 2015 promo goes up 1446 to 154.95. From the Vault Transform goes up 38.51 to $60. The Magic Origins foil goes up 52.83 to 87.78. And the Magic Origins pre-release promo goes up 54.28 to $85. Alright, well that does it for this week's Market Watch. This was a long one. So hopefully you got something out of it. You have an idea of which cards are starting to move. Basically every card is starting to move, it feels like. So until next time, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible through the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon and have a great day.